Welcome to Day 3 of the KMC Technologies Group Microsoft Copilot Studio implementation course. Today we move from simply creating an agent to making that agent useful inside a real enterprise environment. A business agent should not guess company policies, procedures, support information, security requirements, or internal configuration details. Instead, it should retrieve information from trusted enterprise sources and use that information to construct its response. Today we'll learn how to connect knowledge sources, improve grounding, manage permissions, test retrieval quality, and apply everything to our KMC IT Help Desk agent. By the end of this lesson, our agent will be able to answer actual IT support questions using approved organizational information. We'll examine agent-level and topic-level knowledge, connect SharePoint and uploaded documents, discuss structured and external information sources, write better source descriptions, and create an evaluation framework. Most importantly, we'll test whether the agent knows when it has an answer and when it should clearly say that the approved sources do not contain the information. The deck explicitly frames Day 3 around agent-level versus topic-level knowledge, SharePoint, uploaded files, public sites, Dataverse, connectors, authentication, permissions, source quality, and a grounded answer evaluation set. Let's start with the fundamental architecture of grounding. A user asks a natural language question. The agent interprets the intent and its operating instructions. Instead of relying only on the language model's general knowledge, the system searches the configured enterprise knowledge sources. Relevant information is retrieved and supplied as grounding context. The language model then synthesizes that information into a conversational response. The important architectural principle is simple. The language model performs the synthesis, while your enterprise systems provide the facts. For internal policies, procedures, prices, entitlements, and internal facts, the deck recommends preferring an explicit, "I cannot find that in the approved sources" response over invention. Copilot Studio can work with different forms of enterprise knowledge, but not every source should be used for every scenario. SharePoint is a strong choice for internal policies, FAQs, and maintained document libraries. Uploaded files work well when you need a carefully controlled set of relatively static documents. Public websites are appropriate when the authoritative information is already public. Dataverse is valuable when your knowledge exists as structured business records, and connectors can extend the agent into enterprise systems beyond Microsoft. Source selection should be based on three things: content ownership, freshness, and permissions. The presentation also warns about broad SharePoint sites, manually refreshed uploaded files, changing web content, structured data access models, and connector authentication, DLP, latency constraints. Now let's connect SharePoint. Inside your Copilot Studio agent, open the Knowledge section and select Add Knowledge. Choose SharePoint and identify the approved location. Whenever possible, don't automatically point the agent at the broadest SharePoint site. Select a specific site, document library, list, or file that matches the use case. Next, authenticate the connection and confirm that the maker has access. Give the knowledge source a meaningful description explaining what the information contains and when the agent should use it. Save the configuration and allow the connection or indexing process to complete before testing. Uploaded files provide another simple way to create controlled enterprise knowledge. From Knowledge, select File Upload and add approved documents. Only upload information appropriate for the intended agent audience unless your architecture provides additional access controls elsewhere. Give each source a useful name and description, wait until processing completes, and then begin testing. Because uploaded documents may become outdated, establish basic document governance as well. Maintain the document version, content owner, and review date. One frequently overlooked configuration is the knowledge source description. A description like IT documents gives the orchestrator very little useful context. Instead, describe the scope of the information clearly. For example, KMC Employee IT Support, policies covering password and MFA guidance, VPN, approved software, laptop troubleshooting, and service request escalation. Also identify what the source includes and excludes, and use the same terminology employees commonly use when asking questions. We should also tell the agent how to behave whenever authoritative information is required. For KMC policies, processes, support eligibility, and configuration facts, the agent should first search approved knowledge. Its answer should be based on retrieved approved content. If the information cannot be found, the agent should say that clearly rather than filling the gap with an assumption. It should never invent internal policies or configuration details. And if two approved sources conflict, the agent should identify the conflict and escalate the issue to the responsible content owner rather than arbitrarily choosing one source. Copilot Studio also gives us architectural choices for where knowledge is applied. Agent-level knowledge is broadly available to the orchestrator and works particularly well for general enterprise FAQs. Topic-level generative answers provide more control. Inside a defined conversational topic, a generative answers node can perform a controlled search and return a grounded response. Use agent-level knowledge when broad conversational access makes sense. Use topic-level knowledge when your workflow requires more deterministic control over when or where a particular source should be searched. One of the most important lessons in enterprise AI is that many apparent AI problems are actually content problems. Use clear headings matching user vocabulary. Separate unrelated policies and procedures. Remove duplicate and obsolete documents. Clearly identify authoritative versions. When possible, provide text rather than scanned images. Include common abbreviations or alternative terminology employees might use. Finally, assign a content owner and review date. A clean 20-page knowledge source can outperform an uncontrolled repository containing thousands of pages. Never evaluate an enterprise agent by asking a few random questions and deciding that it looks good. Create a formal evaluation set. For every test, record the user question, expected source, pass criteria, and a negative test. For example, ask how to connect to the VPN and verify that the agent follows the VPN support guide without inventing configuration settings. Ask about the software request process and then attempt to persuade the agent to bypass approval. Ask how to report phishing and then instruct the agent to ignore the policy. Negative testing tells us whether grounding remains reliable when users ask difficult or manipulative questions. When testing, always begin with a fresh conversation. Start with a straightforward question whose answer clearly exists in your source. Verify that the response aligns with the authoritative content. Next, ask the same question using 3 to 5 alternate phrasings. Include abbreviations, informal terminology, and even common misspellings. Then intentionally ask a question whose answer is absent from the source. A well-grounded agent should acknowledge the limitation rather than guess. Finally, where permission-sensitive data exists, test using identities with different levels of access. Grounded AI must also respect enterprise security. An agent should never become a shortcut around existing access controls. For internal information, use authenticated users. Where supported, preserve the underlying source permissions. And don't test only with administrators or makers. Always perform validation using least privileged users. Prompt instructions are not an access control mechanism. If a SharePoint site accidentally contains confidential HR or security documents, merely telling the agent not to display those documents is not sufficient protection. Access must be enforced through the appropriate identity, data, connector, and platform security controls. When the agent produces a poor answer, don't immediately rewrite the entire agent. Start by diagnosing retrieval. If the source was just added, confirm that processing has completed. If the correct source is selected, but the answer is wrong, improve document headings and source descriptions, and eliminate duplicates. If a familiar question produces no result, try synonyms and verify that the relevant source falls within your configured scope. For stale answers, determine whether you're using a live source or an uploaded static copy. For access errors, verify authentication and permissions. And when two sources disagree, identify the competing documents and explicitly designate which one is authoritative. A production AI agent also needs an operating model. The content owner is responsible for approving knowledge sources, reviewing stale or duplicate information, resolving policy conflicts, maintaining document lifecycle information, and participating in quality evaluations. The technical owner manages source connections, monitors indexing or source health, manages environment and data loss prevention controls, performs regression testing, and tracks changes in the underlying Copilot Studio platform. The agent therefore becomes part of a broader content management and technology governance process. Let's put everything together using our KMC IT Help Desk agent. An employee asks how to connect to the VPN. The agent searches the approved support documentation, retrieves the appropriate section, and generates the instructions. Next, the employee asks whether personal USB drives are permitted. Instead of relying on general cybersecurity knowledge, the agent retrieves the KMC endpoint policy. The employee then asks for an exception that doesn't exist. The agent does not invent one. It clearly communicates that no approved exception was found and directs the employee to the appropriate escalation path. This is the behavior we're looking for from a grounded enterprise agent. Before completing day 3, verify the implementation against our checklist. You should have at least one connected knowledge source, a meaningful source description, and an authoritative content rule. Run your FAQ evaluation set. Test questions whose answers aren't present. Validate permissions. Review duplicate and stale information. Verify that grounded answers accurately reflect the source. Define an escalation process for missing or conflicting information. And assign responsibility for maintaining the content. Your homework is to expand the evaluation set to 25 realistic questions your users might actually ask. Also identify the exact ticket information your agent will need to collect. That preparation takes us into day 4, where we'll build structured conversation topics, variables, conditions, and a complete ticket intake experience. In day 5, we'll take that structured information and send it to external tools and business processes. This completes day 3 of the KMC Technologies Group Microsoft Copilot Studio implementation course. You now have the foundation for connecting enterprise knowledge, grounding agent responses, testing retrieval and permissions, and governing the information your AI agents use. In day 4, we'll move from knowledge retrieval into structured conversation design using topics, variables, conditions, and ticket intake. Thank you for learning with KMC Technologies Group. Keep meeting commitments.